Hey, you've just stepped into the Caring Corner, where life's caregiving challenges meet a whole lot of heart and a dash of sass. I'm Mischelle O'Neal, and I'm here to serve up insights, inspiration, and real-life tools to help you navigate caring for your kids and aging loved ones without forgetting about you. Expect everything from time management hacks and emotional wellness strategies to technology tips sprinkled with humor and tenacity. Are you ready? Let's get to it. Hey, and welcome to the Caring Corner podcast. And I'm Mischelle O'Neal, your host and emotional wellness coach. And I am thrilled to be here this week with an amazing subject. Who doesn't want to talk about money? And I have a phenomenal guest, Natalie Kime, who's going to tell us about finances and how to prepare not only for our caregiving needs, but also moving forward, what things we can do to prepare. And she's got so much more to tell you about. But Natalie Kime is a financial professional who works with individuals, families, and business owners to educate them and help them become financially literate. In doing so, she creates customized financial plans that meet their goals and dreams. Now, she believes in removing the emotion around talking about finances, being in the trenches with her clients, meeting them where they are, and walking alongside them every step of the way. The relationships that she has and continues to forge with her clients are the lifeblood of her business. Natalie, thank you so much for being here with us today, and I can't wait to get into this subject.
Thank you so much, Mischelle. I am so excited to be here and talk about this with you and just share what information comes up, I guess.
Awesome. I was getting ready to ask you, are you game for anything? You know, I have set questions.
I'm game. Go where you want to
go. But ladies, I just want you to know that she is going through some of the things that we are dealing with too. So her perspective and the way that she can touch on this subject is something that she's not only living, but she is competent and educated in. So I am thrilled to be here with Natalie today. So first question, lady, can you share a pivotal moment in your journey that led you to focus on financial foundation, retirement planning, and long-term care and living benefits? And so you don't have to come back to this, how has this influenced your approach or philosophy, especially concerning emotional wellness, caregiving, and professional balance?
Oh, goodness. So pivotal moment. In starting my business, the pivotal moment was I had a huge personal life upheaval late in 2018. And then I was working, so I have a 20-year background in corporate accounting and finance. And I was working as a contractor for a company at the time. They notified me around Thanksgiving my contract would end the end of the year. So personal upheaval, professional upheaval. And I found myself in a place where for the first time at 46 years old, I thought, who am I really? And excuse me, not only what do I want, but what do I want to be doing? And how can I make a difference in the world? And so I started on a journey of getting to know myself, becoming a student of myself, personal growth, and all while I was looking for a new job. And I came across an event that I thought I could go to and meet some other professional women. It was a single professional women's lunch. And so I RSVP'd, couldn't go, but the gal sent me a friend request. And 2 weeks later, she posted about how the financial industry is the #1 growing profession for women. And it just piqued my interest. So I started digging a little bit. I got some information and I realized that I could put to work my 20 years of experience in corporate America, working with people, everyday people like me. that need to plan for their future, that might be a little bit behind, who might be right on track, wherever they fall. But I realized if I could help myself after having a financial education that never taught me personal finance, then most likely everybody needed the same kind of help. So that's how I started. And then the pivotal moment to really focus deeper on long-term care and living benefits came when I started my business. A huge part of my why was to take care of my parents someday. I thought that would be 5 or 10 years down the road. And about 2 years into my business, I flew home for a doctor's appointment for my mom, who'd been diagnosed with dementia the previous year.
Mm.
The doctor informed my brother and I that my parents couldn't live safely on their own anymore. And so because of what I do and the way my house is set up, I had an extra bedroom and bathroom on the main floor. And I said, I'm going to move them to Texas. They lived in Utah. So I'm going to move them to Texas. And I have the ability to have a flexible schedule. I work from home. I can tag team with my dad for my mom's care. And so that's really what drove me into this business and then into focusing on, for my ideal client is the sandwich generation. Exactly who I am. I still have a child in his early 20s at home. He just got out of the military, and then I'm caring for my parents in retirement. And so I want to help those people that are in that exact place, not only create what they need for the future, but help them to best support their loved ones. I'm trying to remember the next part of that question.
How has this influenced your approach or philosophy, especially concerning emotional wellness, caregiving, or professional balance that you are creating for yourself?
Okay, thank you. So for me, it influences everything, because I've realized that even though my parents didn't have a strong financial education, even though they didn't have a lot of those products set up for themselves, they'd made enough right decisions that we were able to put money in places that it's going to support any of their needs in the future. And so through that process, though, I realized how many people don't have that, and the additional stress that that puts on you, which impacts your emotional well-being, your just overall stress levels, right? We're going through enough handling the situation, but now we have to be focused on and concerned about the money.
Mhm.
And for those being cared for or assisted or supported in retirement, now they're dealing with the stress of, I've put this burden on my family. So on both ends of the equation there, you have people significantly stressed out. It's impacting their overall mental wellness,
Mhm.
which then affects their physical wellness. And then from a balance perspective, as a caregiver, what I do gives me the freedom to show up where I need to show up, when I need to show up. And so that's really the focus I have in creating that for my clients based on their situations or their future expectations. Do you want to be prepared to be in home and be able to hands-on care for somebody? Are you going to be a support caregiver? And sometimes
Mhm.
we don't know that answer, because whatever comes down
Right.
the pipeline, they may need confinement because
Mhm.
of a severe medical condition.
Mhm.
Um, and then it's also nurturing my clients to have the difficult conversations about expectations for the future before, as much as possible, before those decisions have to be made. So, do you want to be a caretaker or do you not? And both of those answers are okay.
Wow. So there is so much I want to hit on, and so we're gonna peel back this onion. There, I'm gonna tell you the areas that I want to hit on, and then we'll
Okay.
move from there. So one of the things I know from our previous conversation, we talked about your parents moving in with you, and in fact, I'm going to have additional episodes on this. We were talking about how do you make it comfortable for them to make that move, but when you were making that move, there are costs like the moving. You just don't all of a sudden just move one household to the other without, there's the movers, there's that money you weren't planning on. How do you make sure you have that money? And then we were talking about possibly extended care as you go down the line. How do you prepare for that? And when you're in it at this point, at 50, 40, 60, wherever you are, and your parents are older, it's kind of, I don't want to say too late, but a lot of this should have been done early. And of course, in our 20s, who's going to do it early? Oh, I think I'll live forever and I don't need any money.
Yeah.
So I know that's hard to talk to them. But then when we're here and we're in it, how do you build from there? How do you make sure that the little you have or the lot you have, that you make it work for you? So I'm going to stop there
Okay.
and I'm
Okay.
going to let you talk.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. So the logistics side of it, there is a lot, right? So I live in Texas. My parents were in Utah. So for me, once we got that notification, they can't live safely on their own. That weekend was full of a lot of hard conversations. Now, luckily, once my mom had been diagnosed, we really sat down and dug into my parents' finances. I had already gone through the process of setting up a trust, and they had a chunk of money saved in the bank. And this is very typical for my parents' generation, right? The boomers.
Right, right.
So they saved money in the bank, and they grew up a generation in their younger years where they went without and they didn't have a lot. So they saved the money in the bank. That gave them a feeling of safety and security. And they didn't understand a lot of the financial products that were available in their younger years. And even now, because a lot of those things were coming about in the 70s
Mhm.
and 80s. So when I was a little kid, that's when some of that stuff was coming out. Now we know a ton about it. It's evolved over time. And so they had a chunk of money in the bank. They had done a little bit of investing in some annuities. My dad had served 20 years in the Navy. And so he had a retirement from that, a small pension from one of his jobs, and then my mom had a small pension as well. So between all those things and Social Security, they had more than their needs, that built up that savings in the bank. And the other thing they did was they stayed in the house my brother and I grew up in.
Mm.
When our friends grew up and moved out, their parents, a lot of them moved into newer, nicer, upgraded homes. My parents didn't. They stayed where they were at. So a home they bought in 1979 for $49,000, they
Right.
were able to sell 2 years ago for almost 10 times that much. That is what gave us the significant chunk of money to put into what we did is we put it into a fixed index annuity. It's protected from losses.
Mhm.
It's guaranteed to give them a lifetime income they cannot outlive. And the one we chose has a confinement rider. What does that mean? It's a little attachment to the policy that if my mom gets confined for up to 5 years, that annual income will double for up to 5 years.
So let me break in here real quick because there's something that I hear about a lot, and I don't have a good feeling about it. So I want you to share with me the difference between what you just talked about
Yeah.
and what they call reverse mortgage.
Yes. So I actually just recorded an episode about this yesterday. So I'll get you the release date for that and the
Mhm.
episode name so that you can
Mhm.
share it with your audience as well if they want more
Absolutely.
information. So
Mhm.
what I just talked about is when you have money, whether you saved it, whether it's equity in a home, whether it is maybe a 401k, and
Mhm.
you're utilizing it in retirement. However, you have a lump sum of money. Fixed index annuities are designed to prevent losses, allow for growth comparable to the market, and some of them are designed to grow your money. So you're using them before you hit retirement. Other ones are designed to utilize after retirement. You can flip a switch to turn on what we call the lifetime income. Based on
Mhm.
the value you have in there, it will tell you an amount that it's going to pay you per year for the rest of your life,
Mm.
even if your cash value in that goes to zero.
So no surprises.
No surprises. And
Awesome.
if
Mhm.
you pass away along the way and there still is a value in there,
Mhm.
then that passes to your beneficiaries fully as a death benefit, like a life insurance. So it does
Right,
not go
right.
through probate or any of
Mhm.
that process. It passes directly to beneficiaries. So that's how that product works. A reverse mortgage. So I will be honest, I have always had a very negative approach to reverse mortgages until recently when I learned from a reverse mortgage expert and
Okay.
one of my partners in my business who comes
Mhm.
from the real estate world. So, reverse mortgages are a magnificent tool for certain people, not for everyone. When
Okay.
you're looking at somebody who was not in a position to save for retirement, they're barely scraping by
Mhm.
with Social Security in retirement, but they have a significant amount of equity in their home. A reverse mortgage is a way that they can tap into that equity to supply that monthly income they need, maybe cover medical expenses and things. But here's the thing, I always thought somehow the bank benefited more than the person. And what I recently learned is the way those are set up is first right of refusal when somebody passes with a reverse mortgage still goes to the family. So for example, if somebody
Mhm.
has $400,000 in equity in their home, goes in,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of components to it, but I'm trying to keep it super simple. So if somebody
Okay.
has $400,000, they go to the bank and the bank approves them for $200,000 in reverse mortgage. Now,
Uh-huh.
there are different ways they can take it, lump sum, monthly payments, they can structure it differently.
Right.
So say they've utilized that $200,000 and they pass away. Well, there's still $200,000 equity in the home. The family has first right of refusal to buy out that $200,000 that's owed to the bank and keep the home if they want to, or take the home and sell it, get that 400,000 in equity, pay the bank their portion, and then that $200,000 is an inheritance that's passed to them, right, from selling the home. So
Mhm. Mhm.
it is not I had the impression it was something that you were locked into. The whole thing was rolled up into it and it belonged to the bank from there on out. It doesn't, but it requires working with somebody who's a specialist in that area, which I am not, but
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
know who is for those situations now to plug clients into because we do run into those situations unfortunately where that's all you have is what you
Mhm.
created,
Right.
equity in your home. So it can be used to benefit you without you having to sell the home. And, people want to stay in their homes. There's a reason.
Right. Right.
There's a
Mhm.
reason that they paid it off or they've paid their mortgage down to the point that they have because they want to live there. So utilizing it in a way you can do that. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, they're really a good product. Um,
Okay, I'm glad you because I was you. I was
yeah,
very negative, and it didn't make me feel good. It wasn't something that's a feel good feeling.
yeah,
Knowing that when that person passed, I was thinking their house belonged to whoever they got all that money from, or
yeah,
unless they had the money to give back that portion, you know.
yes.
That and so this understanding educating me was wonderful, and I know my audience is glad to have that understanding, so they know that that option is out there and they have a clear understanding. The thing is, like you said, is to go, whatever you're dealing with, go to the expert on that.
Mhm.
It's just like going to the doctors, right?
Yep.
If I have rheumatoid something or a heart something, I'm not going to continue to go to my general practitioner. Love her dearly. But if it's a specialty area, I'm going to the specialist because I know even though she has general knowledge of it, I need
Yeah.
someone who specifically has studied this and know all the nuances of what I'm about to ask or what I'm about to do. So absolutely go to the specialist on that. So,
Yeah. And I would say, honestly,
mhm.
it may be hard to determine who's the right person. There's a lot of people who can do reverse mortgages, but just like any industry, it doesn't mean that they're going to do it in the client's best interest. So, what I would recommend is utilizing a financial professional like myself that you trust to help connect you to that right expert in anything involving money because we focus on building those relationships for exactly that purpose to help our
Right, right.
clients fill the gaps that we don't specialize in. So I would throw that one additional thing in there.
I agree with you. Again, back to the doctor. When she sends me to a specialist, my first number one question, who would you go to?
Yes.
And then I know, okay, if she would send her family there or if she would go there, that's the person I'm going to. And it's not even who do you recommend. It doesn't matter who you recommend. I want to know who you go to,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
And so that's the difference. So now, considering the challenges women face. Oh wait, did we get on the moving? Yeah, we did.
We touched a little bit. I was going to say one more thing about that.
Go ahead.
So there's
Mhm.
that significant process, right? Selling the home, taking care of all of that. But a part of that process was because I'm out of state, I was traveling back and forth to Utah every 3 weeks to handle my
Wow.
parents' affairs. So it
Mhm.
was, and we were also in a position where my parents are still alive and we're going through their home, separating things out for my brother and I, for our children, my parents' grandchildren. And we identified with mom and dad the things they want to keep, the things that I had room for. They have a bedroom set up at my brother's house and they have a bedroom here. So when we go
Mm.
back to visit, they have a room of their own.
Mhm.
Luckily, those rooms are designed and shaped and set up almost exactly like their bedroom was at home. So
Wow.
from a memory care
Mhm.
perspective, we were able to set up the bed in the same place, the end tables, the dresser. We put similar pictures on the
Mhm.
dresser in each place. So from that perspective, it still feels like theirs and familiar for both of them. Even my dad
And
who knows, right?
right. And that's so important, especially like you said, for someone with dementia.
Yeah.
But even for anyone who, I mean, I talk to my mom all the time, and one of the things she says, I am not leaving my house. And I understand. One, her sister is still there who is older than her, and she wants to be there in case anything happens or to be, so I understand she doesn't want to move. I'm always saying, Mom, why don't you come stay with me? And she says, I want to stay in my house. She
Yeah.
says, I'd rather get someone to come in here and live with me before I move. And I understand that and I respect her wishes. But also at the same time, I love that you were able to create that space of familiarity for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I kept of my parents were things they had in their house that
Hmm.
had memories for me. Things
Hmm.
tied, my mom is Polynesian, so things tied to her culture. And so what I did is a lot of the decor that I brought from their house,
Hmm.
I took down decor in my house and I
Ah,
put what I brought. Now I would have done that anyway because I love those things and I wanted to have them where I could see them and appreciate them on the regular, not
right.
in a storage bin. But doing that, my mom can look around the living room, and while it's different, she sees things that she recognizes and remembers. Um, and then the other thing I did is I put a little chalkboard on the wall right across from where she sits. It tells her what month it is, what day it is,
Mm.
how many medications she takes a day because she always counts her pills. And it also says that her hair looks nice and her lipstick's beautiful because
I
those are the
love
things
that.
she always wants to make sure her hair is nice, and she no matter what else, she will put on lipstick just to come and sit in her chair for the day. She comes out dressed with lipstick on.
And
So
people don't understand. I'm sorry about that, but people
you're
don't
good.
understand just how important that is for their emotional well-being as well as ours. You know how they say happy wife, happy life. I say
Yes,
happy mom, happy dad, happy life.
yes.
And they just need to be able to maintain their dignity and their respect. And you are creating that beautifully. And like I said, you have given me two episodes that I know I will be touching on, and that's one, moving from your home, and then
Mhm.
creating familiarity. And I already have them on my lineup, but I am, just from our conversations. So thank you so much for sharing that part of your life.
You're welcome,
Now,
you're welcome.
yeah. Okay. So, considering the challenges that women face juggling this I call it generational caregiving because nobody wants to be a part of a sandwich. They're like, I've never heard of sandwich
That's a good
generation.
I like that. I'm gonna steal that. I like
Yeah.
it.
I either call it generational caregiving or multi generational caregiving. And more people feel more attached to that from what
Yeah,
I'm gathering. But considering that and their your personal ambition for you, that's what, your business is so that you can take care of your parents. That's one of the reasons that I have my business, because I'm able to travel to my mom or, wherever else I need to other parents if I need to help with whatever they need as well,
Yeah.
versus being locked into a job. And then professional responsibilities that you have. What common obstacles do you feel that these women face or encounter with their finances and in preparation for this season of their lives? And when you tell us this, could you also suggest strategies for overcoming these challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest challenges, if you end up unexpectedly in a caretaking role, what happens to your career or your business, especially if it's outside your home?
Mhm.
For me, that travel back and forth every 3 weeks for 3 months would have done one of two things. Either I would have lost my job because I would have burned through my PTO, or I would have been forced to take FMLA.
Right.
But even then, once my parents were here, I would have still had a job outside of the home, and that was not going to work. So,
I'm thinking, like you said, if they weren't safe in their home and you left them by themselves, how are they going to be safe in your home?
exactly, exactly. And so that's the blessing. My boyfriend also works from home. And so when I have to leave the home for meetings, speaking engagements, whatever, even to travel for
Mhm.
business, he's able to fill in that gap. Or my son, who's now home out of the military, between the two of them, they can kind of tag team to fill in those gaps. So
Awesome.
definitely gives me some relief. But that first hardship you're going to run into financially is, how do you make the money you need to make to support your life when you can't be outside the home or you're a hands-on caretaker?
Right.
Um, the other side of that is, if you're not the hands-on caretaker, but a loved one has to go into a facility or is able to stay at home with some support care that you're paying for, if they are not in the situation to financially afford that, then that could potentially put a financial burden on you. So
Mhm.
those are the two number one things I see there from a financial perspective. Also, for me, the cost of some things have gone up. We spend more on groceries,
Yeah.
even utilities have gone up a little bit. And so it's all of those things. Now, solution wise, sit with a financial professional and plan for it. Your plan is not going to be perfect because we don't get to control the timing of things that
Right.
happen, the severity of things that may come our way. But if
Mhm.
you are prepared and it never happens, then travel more in retirement or create a college fund for your grandkids or something like that. You do something additional, but to have part of your retirement plan to cover those costs, to allow you to quit that job if you do want to be a caretaker and they want to be taken care of by a family member. Um,
Mhm.
or to help cover those costs if they come down the road, which is why it's so important to have those conversations with a financial professional to understand where your loved ones are at that are in or heading into retirement, so you understand what may fall to you from a financial perspective if they can't cover it, honestly. And so those are the two biggest things. And I do that through a couple of things. I mean, there are strategy wise, when you start younger, life insurance is less expensive. So whether
Mhm.
you go permanent insurance or term insurance, a lot of those policies now include long-term care and living benefits at
Mhm.
little or no additional cost, depending on the provider. Now, when I say permanent insurance, I don't mean whole life. I mean permanent insurance in which you can build and save cash for retirement tax.
Mhm.
You have access to it along the way. There's no 59 and a half rule, and there's no 73 RMD regulations attached to that either. So when you start young with a little bit of money, you can create some significant wealth for yourself and financial freedom in retirement to tackle
Mhm.
whatever comes your way. The other side of that would be, say you have an old 401k from a job that you left.
Right.
Put it into an account that will protect it, grow it, and also offer some of those benefits down the road when you need them. So it's planning to have enough to support your life if you're healthy, understand the costs of long-term care. For
Mhm.
one person, it can be for a private room anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 a year
Wow.
if you are confined. So you need to know that you've planned to cover that if that should come about. Now, when it comes to a loved one already in retirement, oftentimes they're in a better situation than you think. They've got money in places they're living off in retirement. Can we make a shift and put that somewhere that it will provide what they need, like I did for my parents? So I was able to take that lump sum of money and put it somewhere. It's growing it. And our hope and expectation is that it's going to more than cover any future needs for my mom, but also for my dad. And they're actually in a position to now leave a legacy that they never thought they were going to be able to.
Wow.
Because we
Wow.
put that in the right place. So now I know my mom, I don't ever have to say no. I don't ever have to choose less than for her. If she has to be combined, it'll literally be the best place possible with the best care possible.
Wow.
We're never going to have to say no. That's the ideal situation to be in. That's what gives you true emotional freedom, financial freedom, and peace of mind.
I was going to say that is peace of mind 100%.
Yes.
So everybody's not in that position. Let's be honest.
Correct.
So you've lived your life, they've lived their life,
Correct.
and now you're taking care of them. Is there anything you can do at that point? Whether you're like some of my ladies, they're still in the workplace. I mean, that's they're still in the work. Is there anything we can do or they can do to make it more peaceful, more peace of mind than they have right now going down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing you can do is get a hold of, chances are your parents are on Medicare in retirement. Get a hold of a Medicare professional, not through Medicare, a standalone person who specializes in the benefits that are available. For example, when my parents moved here, my mom was struggling. Her knees were bothering her, arthritis. So I'm her daughter. Goodness. Her doctor advised bringing in home health to help us establish a little exercise routine that would strengthen her. And it's something my dad and I could do with her. So she would be more willing to participate. So when that happened, I think we're very, very blessed because our nurse that came in with that connected me with a Medicare standalone third-party Medicare professional and said, call her. If there are any outside benefits through Medicare that your parents qualify for, she will know it. Now, my parents make too much in retirement to qualify for anything extra, and I'm okay with that because I don't want, that means somebody else can utilize those benefits. But going through that exercise was part to just understand, should I be tapping into things I'm not? And once I understood that, now that's a tool in my tool belt where I can advise like I am now, go through that exercise. My dad is also a veteran. And so I was able to contact the VA. What exactly do they provide, and how can that be covered? It's all going to be based on the amount of money that they make, is going to determine a lot of those things. But when you have a conversation with somebody up front that specializes in that, they can actually look at your parents' situation and said, hey, these things are in place. Should that time come, you can tap into those services. There are a ton of free services. A lot of care facilities have free classes and services where even residents who don't live there can go participate in silver sneakers, exercise things. They have, what's it called? Support groups for family members and loved ones. A lot of those things exist in caretaking facilities or in your local area. You can Google those. You can Google that information. So I also have a caregiver's guide that has email links for where people can look things up. Mischelle, I will share that with you.
Absolutely.
That is something.
And I have one too. So together, we could probably hit just about everything.
Yeah. So having a caregiver guide, a resource like that, I love that you have one. I should have probably assumed that.
By the way, have you see, this is off the subject. Have you heard of the app Room? ROON?
No.
Okay, look it up, but
Okay.
it's to ask questions about it, doctors and experts about any medical type question. And so they have experts on there with dementia. In fact, I know one of the experts for dementia on there. She was my guest last time.
Okay.
And so go ahead, and that's a great app to have anytime you have a quick question or something, any why question or how to question. It's a great app to have, just a little app to have.
That's
ROON.
okay. That's amazing. Yeah, there's a couple good podcasts out there. I know you cover a lot of things. So I tapped into that a little bit to see what was available. And I found a couple really great accounts on Instagram of
Hmm.
hands-on caregivers and what they're going through. And I reached out and created relationships with them to where I can ask questions. And um, look, at the end of the day, the number one thing you can do is talk. Use your voice. Use it early on to have the
Hmm.
conversation so you know what everybody is willing to do, what everybody's desires are, and you can plan financially according to it. But when the time comes and there's the things that are out of your control, if you have that foundation of communication when it comes to these things, that alone will serve you as well, if not more than anything else. Because
Right.
when you ask for help, people will point you in the right directions.
Exactly. And community, that's why community is so important, especially as you're going through this caregiving journey. And one of the things that I really impress upon my clients and anyone that I come into, into that I meet or talk to about the caregiving journey, because so many of us feel isolated or no one else understand. You think you're the only one going through exactly what you're going through. But, you find as you go along on the journey, there are so many people that are dealing what you're dealing with, as well as those who are dealing with stuff you couldn't even imagine. And you're like, what?
Yes.
And so just that feeling of I'm not alone in this. Someone understands when I say this and I don't have to stay quiet. Yes, a lot of times what happens is we get isolated from our friends or people that we were with in the past, but that's because they don't understand what you're going through,
Mhm.
or even you can't explain it. It's nothing that someone is going to understand how you feel, and the guilt and the all the different emotions that you're going through. Only someone else who is possibly going through that journey, and so that's why one of the people that I reach out to is the new caregiver. And that's perfect, for even you, is someone who's new at it. So more than likely a lot of times they're younger, and so we can catch them financially
Yes.
younger than as they get further down the road, and the caregiving gets more intense, or whatever happens. I do want to specify that caregiving isn't also for the elderly. We always think caregiving is the elderly, but there are things like people in military, there are things that happen in our lives, strokes or anything, and we're talking someone 25 can have a stroke or a heart attack. And so what are things that you would say to help someone who is in this type of caregiving, scenario? How would you tell them to prepare? And you can't prepare for it, but how would you help them move forward? What are tools or strategies or practices that you would recommend that could significantly aid our caregivers out there, our new caregivers?
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing is to, when it comes to financial things, sit with a financial professional.
Mhm.
If you're 20, do it today. If you're 30, do it today. If you're 40, 50, 60, 70, do it today. It is so important, though, to not just sit with them once, but to build a relationship where you circle back. And that way, as things change, if you're in your 20s, you're single, great. Here are some ways you can start saving long term to build wealth for yourself in the future. In your 30s, I've gotten married, I have 2 kids, and I have a mortgage now. Great. Well, we're going to address, or we're going to increase some of the focus that we put in place in your 20s to make sure that you still are prepared. God forbid the worst happen and you're no longer here or your spouse is no longer here. You've got things set up for that, but also you have kids that are going to get married, go to college, start a business, whatever it is. So it's building that relationship and revisiting it. I reach out to my clients once a year to update their financial needs analysis and take a look at their financial plan. One, I want to celebrate the progress they've made with whatever we implemented the previous year. Then we want to address, are they ready for the next step in the process? Because we're all in different places. And then also the most important thing I do is understand my client's goals. A financial plan is based on your goals, not my goals or what I want for you. So that gives me the opportunity to ask if their goals have changed, if their concerns have changed, and address all those things. So that definitely, number one, is to be preparing for yourself as well as much as possible. Then when those kids come along, and my son's half sister that is going to be 12 this year, she has Down syndrome, and she also had leukemia when she was I think 3 or 4 years old. She was diagnosed with that. And so we've experienced some of that through his sister and his dad and stepmom. And so seeing what they went through, there are things like special needs trusts that you can set up to make sure that you're building financially for their care, because there will come a day likely that you're not here. You know, sometimes we have high functioning Down syndrome, autistic, whatever, that neurodivergent people, they're able to care for themselves, live on their own, hold a job. And then we have those who need some level of support care always. So addressing those things. My biggest recommendation for people is when you have a child, put a life insurance policy on them. And there are policies now. I would say there's a significant portion of life insurance carriers who do not offer long-term care or living benefits on children. I can tell you I have 2 carriers that do. So you can get living benefits on your child if they are in a car accident as a child or a teenager and something happens. You can tap into those death benefits while they're still living. So I say all the time, life insurance is no longer just if you die too soon. It is more importantly for if you live too long. But if you put that in place for your children and those situations happen, I just met with a young man last week. He's 25 years old, exactly what you said. He had a stroke at 24 years old. And so that disqualifies them for a lot of products that are out there that are insurance and health based. So setting that up when they're young, it is very affordable. And it can change the game financially for your family, 100%.
Wow, that's great information. That was really good. So, reflecting on your journey, we're going to get personal now. We're going to just touch this. What's one piece of advice that you wish had been shared with you earlier, and how would this insight have altered your path?
So the one thing would be to have gotten a financial education in high school or college. It is one thing that we do not do well in America. We do not provide a financial education as a requirement in our school system. I got an accounting and finance, a business management degree, and still never had a standalone personal finance class. Had I gotten, now my parents told me what they knew to tell me, and I didn't listen to any of it, right? Because that's what we do. We move out on our
parents. Why would we listen?
We think we know everything. So the second way most of us learned is from the school of hard knocks. You got yourself into debt and you had to work your butt off to get out from underneath it. That's how a lot of us learn the lesson about how debt works. Now, the society we live in today focuses on getting us to spend, not to save. So if I had had that education early on and I had been taught the principles of assigning my money a job, that would have guaranteed my money was working as hard for me my entire career as I was working for it. So it's this $100 pays my light bill. This $1,600 pays my house payment. You give it a job, including savings and investing for your future. And
Mhm.
if I could have learned that in my early to mid 20s, at the level I understand it now, I would not have struggled for 12 years before starting my business as a single mom.
Wow.
I would have been able to buy a home as a single mom sooner than I did. I would have been able to travel more to see my parents when they were healthier. I would have been able to just been more present for a lot of different things over the years, before we got to where we are now. But I cherish the fact that they're here now and I get to give
Mhm.
back to them what they provided for me for 18 years. But that would be it, getting a financial education and implementing what I learned. And you don't have to do it all at once.
No, and well, that's what I was gonna say. It was when you were talking, it reminded me. I homeschooled my daughter and my nephew for about 3 years, middle school years. And one of the things that I did because of the program that I was teaching them in is they had checkbooks and they had a checking account. I was the banker, of course,
I love that.
and their allowance went to the banker. And they had to tithe 10% and they had to save 10%. And then they got to spend the rest for whatever. But this is stuff they learned how to write a check. They learned what the bank was. They learned how to save, all these things. And you're right, schools don't teach that. Most kids don't even know what a checking account is. What's a check
Mhm.
nowadays? It's like Apple Pay, you know,
Yep.
just stick it to Apple Pay. But how are you tracking what Apple just paid for? I know it popped up on your phone, but how do you know what's in your account? Oh, I'll just look at my bank account. Well, it's not always up to date and it doesn't always show what's in there, and then understanding that they pay so much in fees because they overdraft their account, so that's money you're throwing away. So it's all that. I remember my grandkids telling me, um, when they were real little, it was like, I says, I don't have money for this right now. And they said, well, just charge it. And I'm like, you gotta have money to
Mhm.
charge it.
Yeah.
You just don't charge it.
Yeah.
And so you're right. That does need to be taught in our school
Mhm.
systems today.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the very first concepts I teach people is the rule of 72. So really quick, you take any interest rate, you divide it into 72. That is how many years it will take for your money to double. So in the bank, if you're lucky enough today to be getting a full percent in your savings account, your money will double every 72 years in the bank.
Mm,
Okay. So if you put $1,000 in a bank account for your grandchild when they're born and never touch it, they'll have $2,000 when they're 72 years old. However, if you can put that money in a place that it earns 6 or 12% interest, your money's then
mm,
doubling every 12 years or even every 6 years in your favor. Let's flip it to credit. The average credit card today is 20%. Divide that into
mhm,
72, your debt is doubling against you every 3.5 years. So if on a best case scenario, on average, you're earning 12%, but on a worst case scenario, you're paying 20%.
mhm.
That is where we get stuck under mountains of debt that we don't feel like we can see a light at the end of the tunnel for. So, had I understood that, the other thing would be build a budget and learn how to track your budget young, because if you create that habit, it will tell you whether or not you have the money.
Exactly, exactly. And you make better decisions. We can't get everything now. You just can't. It's like I have a list of stuff that I want to get, but with my list, it's reward. The
Mhm.
reward, if I make much amount of money and I reward myself with, um it has to be, what's the word? It has to be, I mean, I don't make $1,000 and go buy something $1,000.
Yeah.
It has to be maybe $10 or $100, but I make it comparable to what it is I made, that ratio. That's what I was
Yeah.
looking for. So, reward yourself with one of the things that you want. But don't just because the new, like today, the new Apple is out, the new
Yes.
iPad. They just did this big thing on the new iPad. Yeah, I want it too. But I'm not going out there and spend $1,000 on this iPad unless I make blah, whatever blah
Yeah.
is,
Yes.
So those are things, and that's incentive for you to do the work that you do, or to make the money that you do. It's not just about a toil, or oh my, I gotta work. Now you have something that you're working towards because you're rewarding yourself.
Yes.
So
Yes. And that's part of assigning some of your money the job of savings, because then
mhm.
a lot of the times you will have the money to buy the new iPad when it comes out. Um, whatever it is. For me, my dream thing, it's a 1963 split window fastback Corvette.
Woo! Go
Fully
girl.
fully restored. But guess what? I don't have it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And also I will someday for sure.
Mm-hmm.
However, I also realize because of having a financial education, none of that stuff I buy can I take with me.
Hello.
Right?
Yep.
So have it, work for it, get the things when you can afford to get them, and live an amazing life.
And
But
don't.
plan down the road
Mm-hmm.
for when you're making the last memories with a loved one that you might ever make, to make sure they're the best memories they can be, because those are the things that they and you can both take beyond this life.
And that's what I say.
Based
I
on my
say
goals.
use your money for experiences, not
Mhm.
things.
Yep.
Things you can't take with you, but experiences and moments you can
Mhm.
hold on to.
Yes.
Yep. And
That's
then
exactly
when
right.
you're not there, they can hold on for. So it's a legacy that still goes on and on. So you're right, girl. Don't get me started. So look, I am so glad. Wait, before we go,
Yes.
well, I'm gonna say first, I'll just tell you, I'm so glad that you were able to hang out with me today. And so, Natalie, I want you to tell people how they can get in contact with you, because you need to talk to Natalie. So
Yes. Well, it's been my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's always an honor when I can share information. Um, Look, your community is a lot of people doing some of the most important work they'll ever do in their lives. So for me to be able to tap into that to share some information is an absolute honor. That being said, to reach me, you can reach me at nataliekimeconsulting.com. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, Natalie McPhee Kime. You can also check out my podcast at Nickels and Dimes, Finding Financial Freedom. It's on Spotify, Apple, and several of the other platforms. But there is a lot of free information I give there. And I want to say one more thing. If you need my help, you do not pay me directly. My services assisting my clients to put together plans costs them nothing. If I help a client move forward with a product that they have a need for, I make a commission and I get paid well for what I do, but my clients are never going to write me a check. So if you
wow.
need help and you don't know where to start, you think I don't have enough money to pay someone to sit down with me, or if I don't have enough money to invest, I don't have minimums and I don't charge an hourly rate. So if you need to reach out to me, you can do it that way. If you want more deep dives on some of the topics we talked about today and others, you can definitely find them on my podcast. And that is the purpose for my podcast. People
And
need
go
financial.
ahead.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
People
I
need.
was going to say that I will make sure that your links are in the in the show notes,
Yeah.
and so you will have a way to get in contact with her, and I'll even put the link to her podcast as well. Listen to mine, listen to hers. You're going to
Yes.
get some great information. So
Yeah.
definitely make sure you reach out to Natalie there. Natalie, again, thank you so much. And look, if you've enjoyed this episode, just make sure that you hit subscribe and share it out. Make sure you like it, whatever it is on your platform that you're supposed to do. But one of the most things I want you to do today is make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Visit masteringyourmonday.com just make sure that you take care of yourself and your family financially, so that you can have peace of mind as you move into the next season of your life. Thank you for being here again, Natalie. Thank you for hanging out with me today, girl.
Thank
Until
you.
next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that's a wrap for today at the Caring Corner. We've tackled some big topics, but remember, you're not in this alone. Subscribe to keep the wisdom and warmth coming. And stay tuned for amazing guests who'll be joining us to help round out your caregiving toolkit. Catch you next time and keep conquering those challenges.